Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting video. Today we have Ruby the Fastback with a double failure. First failure, man, I can't believe these pieces of crap. Look at this. This is brand new, and I was just installing this. And this little shift bushing here has already torn. And all I did was put it in where it belonged, greased it, and shoved the rod in it, and it split wide open just like it was your first crush. Anyways, in addition to that, when I had the shift rod out, I looked at this thing and I went, what the hell? This thing is crookeder than a dog's dick. So I knew it was time to replace it. This is not something you can easily fix at home, no. It's going to be something we're going to have to replace. So we're going to get into that in this video a little bit. As you can see, I've already got everything apart. So it's going to be a matter of fixing it and putting it back together, and hopefully we have a running and driving car by the end of this video. And if we don't, well, I guess I'll just hit myself with the rod over the head a few times and go to sleep. Alright, well, as you guys always know, like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to plug the ding bell to get updates every time I video. Check out DougShit.net for all my different social media links. We'll be back right after that intro. Alright, we got a bunch of things going on here. The alternator repair for that other Type 3. It's Type 3 week over here. And then we got Ruby over here, of course. This is the shift rod that's bent. And it's really hard for the camera to see exactly how bad this is. It just looks like it's dented. But I assure you, it's pretty badly bent. And I can show you a little more closely, actually, by just kind of rolling it here on the desk, or table, or whatever the hell this is, workbench. You see how much it wobbles in and out. So it's pretty badly out. It's shifted off to the right, and it's also bent way down. And the problem that I was having, for any of you that were watching on my Facebook posts that saw I was having problems with the MP Hurst style shifters that I had, I was blaming the shifter because I always had an unusual wear pattern. It was not the shifter's problem at all. The ball that engages in here, because this is bent so far down, it was barely engaging inside of it at all. And what it would do is it would rub on the side of this, and it would actually cut like a watermelon slice out of the little ball on the bottom of it. And then one of the last shifters, I actually welded it back together, put it in. It seemed to be okay for a little while, and then it just ground itself in there. But the problem is the ball is just not going all the way in, and sometimes it pops out. And when it's out of the cup, I'll tell you what, that shifter will go every which direction except for where it's supposed to be. And you can't get it in any gears at all. You're permanently in neutral until something bangs back together. And that's only put a really, really bad wear pattern on the shifters. And I gotta say, it wasn't the MP shifter's fault. It was entirely the fault of this shift rod. Now, how does it get bent? I don't freaking know. Some people said, Duckman, you're a little too rough and you're muscling the thing. And, well, I mean, you don't have to muscle to put it in gear. You just snick it in and it goes. But how would it be bent down? And Wild Bill said, well, you push down for reverse. I'm like, no. I have a trigger shifter. I'm pulling up on it to get in reverse. So how does it get bent down? I have no friggin' clue. But anyway, I thought maybe I could just cut it off here, and then I could cut it here, and then just weld it on the end, and then add an extension to the other end of it here, because this end needs to be perfectly smooth. I think this is 22 millimeters in diameter, and it has to be the right size that bushing can go through it, because, of course, if the bushing can't go through it, well, then you're not going to be able to shift it, because it's either going to be stuck or it's going to be sloppy. And neither one of those are good things. Anyway, this Type 3 rod, I thought it was a 1 year only, maybe on a 68, but it turned out Type 3s have their own shift rod altogether. It doesn't match anything that's in a Beetle. It's its own length, and it's perfectly straight. See, there's no bends in it whatsoever, or at least there's not supposed to be. Yes, Biddy, I see you. So anyway, I couldn't use a Beetle rod. I mean, I suppose I could if I found one that I could cut down to the right length and I could straighten it out. Early Beetles use a straight, long rod. Later Beetles use shorter, bent rods. Type 3 uses a short, straight rod. So it's a different combination than all the rest. Why the hell Volkswagen didn't, reuse something they already had is anybody's guess. So into this picture comes a universal shift rod, which I purchased for a buggy. This one was actually extra long, and I cut all this crap off the end of it here. So that's going to be good for service. And in fact, I could even weld it in here and repair this one. I could put it up on a shelf for another rod that I end up screwing up in the future. So I'm sure there'll be another one someday, I suppose, right? But anyway, I drilled 3 holes around this here, and I inserted a little bullet in the end and then welded them in, and then I polished this up as best as I could. It's nice and smooth now. Oh, that feels great. And you have to take this. This is the only thing I don't like about this. This is adjustable. You can actually adjust the length of it. And as you guys probably know, if you have a longer shift rod, that brings the shifter closer to you because it pushes the ball on the bottom of the shifter away from you. And again, if you make the shifter shorter, then it pushes the shifter away. So I'm going to experiment with that a little bit, and that's kind of a nice feature. I really didn't need it otherwise, but this is just the way this part comes. So that's in there. That's good to go. This is about ready to get installed on the car. This is a 19mm, goes on here. This one is probably a 21. So I'll get underneath the car with 2 wrenches and tighten it up when it needs to be where it's at. So there's really no easy way to mark this because it's threaded. So it's going to be kind of a guessing situation. But it's approximately 1 nut's width over here of exposed threads. And I'll put this up inside, and I'll make sure I get some good grease coverage on it too to try to stop it from rusting. Because these are semi-exposed to the environment. There is a cover that's on the bottom of these, but the cover it's not absolutely waterproof or watertight. You know, it could get misted, and anyway, this probably won't stay clean forever. And it's not uncommon to find rust on your shift rod anyway. This one was very rusty when I pulled it out the first time when I replaced the bushing. And that's the next story. These bushings are the biggest pieces of shit ever. And this is the problem I have with them. They always split. I'm trying to give you some better light so you guys can see that a little better. But they always split right on the groove, which is supposed to sit on the inside of the shift hanger, or shift rod hanger, I guess that's what this is. It's supposed to sit in there like this. And the problem is they split, and then they come apart, and then the next thing you know, you're back to having a sloppy shifter again, because the shifter will be just sitting in this with no rod doing that kind of crap. And that's what I hear in the car when it's idling. I'll actually hear it doing that. And I put my hand on the shifter to stop it from banging around, and that will usually make it quit. So this needs to be reinstalled. But I said these things are the biggest piece of crap, and they often fail immediately as soon as you install them. Is there something better out there? And it turned out, and this is what my viewers always tell me to do, order one of them bronze ones from the EV guy. And that sounds fine and dandy, but I gotta remind you that Type 3s was the future evolution of air-cooled Volkswagens after the Beetle. And the Type 3 had everything rubber mounted. The rear suspension, the engine, everything is rubber mounted. So the car is actually one of the quietest of the air-cooled Volkswagens that there is. So if I put in a bronze bushing, it's not going to absorb any of the shock and vibration, and guess what it's going to do? It's going to transmit the vibration through the shift rod and right into the shifter, and the entire tunnel is going to turn into a giant speaker box. Ask me how I know. Because when this is in there, without this bushing, and that shift rod is touching this thing, you can hear it. Another thing people like to tell me all the time too is get a shift coupler. Get one of the new solid ones without the rubber bushings in it, so that way they don't rot. Honestly, I haven't had many problems with them. Usually I replace them on cars that I just buy because the ones that are in there are 50 years old. This is actually a new one from the BBT company, I think they are. I don't like the plastic pucks that are in here. I prefer something a little softer. And I may end up making my own in the future. This is the red ones you're not supposed to use. This was an experiment. I had one of these sitting on my shelf in my garage since 1995. When I got this car 11 years ago, it needed one. So I put a red one in, and you know what? It's held up just fine for 11 years. People always tell me, oh, it lasts a little while, a year or two, and then they melt. They turn to mush. Well, mine didn't. I mean, it's a little bit, less than perfect, but it still looks like it's quite a ways away from failure. I don't see any cracks in it forming. I don't see anything getting soft. This looks like it's fine to me, and there's no reason I shouldn't be able to use it. But we're going to put the new part in because I spent good money on this. This one wasn't cheap. It did come from our friends over at CIP1. So that's that. But I tell you what, installing these, $3 a pop every single time, that adds up. And I'm tired of taking the shift rod out because it's not easy to pull out. It's not hard, I should say, but it's just a pain in the ass. It's a process. You got to get under the car. You got to get the car lifted up. You got to pull the patch panels out to cover everything. You got to get the rod out of the car. You got to put the rod back in the car. It's just too much. So I figured, looking at this thing, that wouldn't it be nice if there was just a continuous bushing instead of this plastic split crap? Because it always fails, like I said, right on that split. So the bronze one was probably the first recommended one. The same guy, by the way, started making Delrin ones to replace his bronze ones. But it's still a super hard plastic. So it might wear like it's metal, but it's a super hard plastic and it will transmit noise. It's also a split piece, by the way. I know some of the China companies are starting to make them, and the EV guy stopped making them just like a month ago. I was actually considering trying one of the bronze ones just because I was getting so sick and tired of it. I figured I'd just put some sound padding or something on the tunnel. But I said, you know, I could do better. Let me do something myself. So, Duckman made a duck bushing. I call it the Quacken bushing. This is made from a soft, pliable polymer. What is it? A polyurethane is actually what it is. And it might be uglier than Satan's asshole. I mean, it's bumpy and crap. But the fact is, it's nice and smooth on the inside, and that's really what counts, is that it's wear resistant. It's a urethane, essentially. Much like the urethane that's in here, but it's a different chemical composition. This one actually is squishy. So, being that it's continuous, you say, oh, it won't fit in the hole. But it's actually a little mushy. So you can push it in the hole. With just a little bit of effort, it'll go right in there. And there it is. It doesn't need the ring. And the only reason I think that ring is on there anyway is so that when you push the shift rod in, it doesn't cause this thing to just go fucking stupid, because that's what they do even with the ring on it. This doesn't have that problem. In fact, it has a slightly beveled edge on the inside here, so it's slightly larger. So when it comes time to install your shifter, once it's greased up, of course, this will slide right in super effortlessly. It fits nice and snug. You see, it's got just a little friction on it. That's how you know that it's tight. But it doesn't have any grease on it yet. It'll certainly loosen up with some grease. This urethane stuff is grease impervious. It'll reject it rather than absorb it, so it's not going to dissolve. So this should work out just fine. This little hanger that you see right here is actually the replacement part for a Beetle. They don't actually remove, or at least they shouldn't. If yours came out, then something's wrong. The Type 3 unit, though, and I'll show you. It's actually different. Remember, the Type 3 was the future evolution of the Beetle. They tried to get these to catch on. They didn't. They were a little too expensive, and everybody just loved the Beetle, so they continued to buy them. And these went by the wayside until they were eventually discontinued, while they continued the Beetle here in America for like another 7 years after that. So, let me show you how it's different. We'll go inside the car. Okay, here we go. There's all my shifters. Years worth of shifters. Every time one fails, I usually get about 5 to 10 years out of one before it started to go bad, but it was always the balls were going bad on them. And you can see that one is the one I re-welded the ball on. I didn't finish grinding it down, but that was where I rebuilt it. Here's the brand new one I got, and it's starting to show that little wear pattern. That's when I started to realize what I had was a problem, and I finally discovered what the problem exactly was. But you notice the hole in the tunnel here is much bigger than that of a Beetle, and let me show you why. The reason why is because this whole piece comes right out of the floor. So Type 3s did have an option for automatic, and it allowed an automatic shifter to be bolted down to that without needing all this extra stuff. So there's a shift hanger in the bottom. And this part, about a year ago, the last time I replaced the bushing, I discovered that the bushing was popping out of the hole because the hole was elongated from the shift rod. And this is the bottom, by the way, facing up. Shift rod rubbing on this thing actually turned the hole into an egg shape. So I welded it closed, and then I ground it back out to the size it's supposed to be. It's a little less than perfect, but it's the right diameter. So we're going to put one of my Quacken bushings in here. And actually, I like this one. These are two different processes I used to make them. And this one is just a little softer and easier to manipulate. So this is how I think I'm going to do them in the future. This is actually my, wow, just went flying away, and now I'm wearing a wedding ring on my thumb. Oh, come off! It went way over here somewhere. Here it is. Whee! They're Quacken bushing. That's the name for it, by the way. I might end up selling these things. If this holds up, and I get anything more than, let's say, a month out of it, because the other ones are just failing miserably, I'm going to put them up for sale in the Samba. And like I said, they're uglier than Satan's butthole, but if they're functional, you don't see them anyway. Who cares, right? Who cares? But this particular type of material that I made them out of is a little difficult to work with. It's messy. It makes strings and stuff, and it's just messy. Now, there it is. I'm going to finger that hole out with a little bit of grease, and then we will start putting a shift rod. And the shift rod, like most air-cooled Volkswagens, if not all, goes through a hole under the bumper, you know, and then inside under the hood, there's yet another hole. In this case, it's actually the spare tire well, comes out as one piece. And then behind the axle beam, kind of a, you can't really see it. Yeah, you can see it. There it is. I think the door is still on it currently. I stuck it back on there. But that object you see right there behind my finger is the hole where it's supposed to go through. So, it has to pass through all these panels, and it has to miss the steering tie rods, it has to miss the fuel pump, it has to miss the brake lines. It's a pain in the ass, really. It's a pain in the ass. It's just, that's all. It's not hard, just pain in the ass. So we'll get that shoved on through there. And one of the big advantages of the Type 3 is that, I mentioned it, that piece that's in there, normally it sits in there. Because you can manipulate it, it's a whole lot easier to get the shift rod in, because you can actually lift it up in the floor and get your hands underneath it and manipulate the shift rod and shove it in there, and it's easier to work with. I just wish they made the panel a little bigger so I can get my entire hand in there. That would have been nice. But anyway, no, they didn't do that. So let's get this thing put together in there. We'll use my new shift rod. And you know the damnedest thing about this? The nut that's on this rod, and I don't know why they didn't make a smaller nut. But they could have used something smaller threaded with a smaller nut, and I could have pushed the entire thing through the bushing. But no, that nut won't pass through that bushing. It's too big. Well, stupid. It's just a couple millimeters too big. Ridiculous as it is, but that's what it is. Alright, well, let's get greasy. Well, I'm a little sorry I didn't get video of this. There's a shift rod. I pushed it right through that bushing, the quacking bushing that I put in there. Because I wasn't using this stock one, which usually does this kind of crap, it'll twist itself up and it'll bind on the rod. And because it's a fully round with no split bushing, the shift rod slid right through with some grease. So as I shoved the rod through, it went right in the hole, and then I actually slung it from the front, and it went about half the way in, and then I just pushed it the rest of the way with the broom handle where it's at. So now I can get underneath the car and screw the little end piece back on and put the shift coupler back on, but I'm not going to film that. I can barely get my hands on it as it is. The damn shame of it is it's underneath. And as I said, the Type 3 is the evolution of the Beetle, and most things got better. That was something I feel it got worse, because it used to be under the back seat, and you see somebody already cut a hole under there, but it doesn't reach the bushing, because the bushing or coupler is further back by about another 8-9 inches, so you can't even get to it from there. Anyway, I'm the one that put the sound deadener over the hole, stop the wind from coming through it. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to film that. But we'll put that thing together, and hopefully when we get up to the top, we can install a shifter, and maybe we'll have some gears. Wouldn't that be nice? Alright guys, we're back. It's actually the next day. It's been just a little too hot out here yesterday to get this thing finished up, and I just got tired. I had enough. So early this morning, before it got too damn hot out here, I went and reinstalled the shifter, and got the shift coupler and the little nut and adjustment at the end of the shift rod that I installed adjusted properly, so that now I can reach all 4 gears and 5th like you're supposed to. Everything is where it belongs, and it's nice to see that that works. And not only does this work properly now, but there's almost no lash in it at all. Before I could take the shifter and just do this with it, I mean every which way, because that ball on the bottom was not sitting in the shift rod cup. But anyway, it's in there now. It certainly is. That bent rod really made a huge difference. This thing has never felt this good since I got it. So, massive improvement here. I do have to put the rubber boot back on. The boot that everybody always wants. I don't know what it came from. Maybe a Jeep or something. But I found that one of the Volkswagens that I bought something like 12 years ago, just a random boot. And I said, you know, it would look really nice on my Ampy shifter, so I put it on there, and that's just where it stayed. So, now I've lost it, because this is a brand new shifter, and I haven't put the boot on it yet, so I don't know where it's at. It'll turn up. Wherever it is, it'll turn up. Not worried about it in the least. So, I guess that'll be about it for this video. So let's wrap it up and have a walk around and look at some of the other things we've got going on here in the yard. This just feels so good, guys. And the QUACKENBUSHING that I installed in there, my bushing, also makes it feel good. Because it doesn't bind, it's nice and slick. But yet at the same time, it doesn't allow shifter lash, that the shifter is all sloppy banging around because the rod is not being held snugly by a proper bushing. This is really nice. Okay, I'm overjoyed with that. Yay. Wonder if Ruby will start. I haven't tried to fire up in a couple weeks, actually. She's been sitting here. Let's see. Alright. Ah, she's running. It needs a little throttle. There we go. Ah, she needs to warm up. She's a good girl. Good Ruby. So anyway, I guess I could finish getting this off the stands. No reason for any of this to be under there anymore. It had been sitting on the jack while Bill came over and criticized because the ramp wasn't straight under the wheel. And I said, Bill, it's still sitting on the jack. The ramps are just there in case it slips and falls. Anyway, I gotta finish putting the stuff back together under here too. Gotta put that cover back in, drop the spare tire in. I gotta find that. I took that out some months ago because the little stud that goes on the back of it actually broke. It needs to be welded back on, so I gotta fix that. This should go back down on the ground, and it did. Pull it out, good. Close that up just for the time being, and then we'll roll off the ramps in the back. Don't need to jack up out of there, but I ain't getting out anyway because this square back is still here. And this one we're still working on. I got to get the fuel pump replaced on the front of it. I went into the alternator on this guy. As you remember, you watched the other video, the alternator was leaking about 1.8 amps when it would sit idle and it wasn't running. So I found a proper rectifier from a brand new alternator because I had another one sitting on a shelf in the garage that had never been used. A little dirty from sitting so long. I think I bought that like 15 years ago for this car, nonetheless. Anyway, I pulled the rectifier out of it, installed it in here, put it into the car, 1.8 amp strain, even with the new rectifier. So you can't assume anything new is good. Maybe it's just something about the way this thing works. Maybe it needs some other additional kind of disconnect on it. I don't know. I have a couple ideas in mind, and I have some parts coming here, possibly as soon as today, maybe tomorrow. But that'll be a follow-up video coming up this week. But I need to put this alternator back in as is. I got a couple of solutions, like I said. We'll figure it out. But this is the QUACKENBUSHING. That's the bushing I made. This is the shitty OEM style bushing. It's an aftermarket one. It's not an original Volkswagen one. But as you can see, that's how they tear, and that's where the problem is. This is the one that I removed, and sure enough, it tore exactly the same way. In fact, this one got really soft, and it turned pink, probably because the grease attacked it, which certainly didn't help things. I've got two shifters over here. People keep telling me the MP shifters are trash. You know, I did get one of them that was bad recently, and I put up a post on Facebook about it because of how frustrated I was that I took it right out of the package and it broke. And everybody says, well, you should have spent some money on a better shifter. I'm like, I would have if I liked the way one of those more expensive shifters felt. And honestly, I like these. These are great. And the only reason I replaced them is because the ball on the bottom of them wore out. It actually had like a triangular cut out of it, like out of a watermelon is what it looked like. This one I've since welded back in. It needs to be hit with a flap wheel and round it out a little better. But there's no reason I couldn't still use the shifter. This is the wire that attaches to the trigger up in here. So I need to put that back together. And I'm not sure where I got my third ball. But anyway, some reason I have an extra one. No idea where it came from, but I've got it. So anyway, I guess that's going to be it for this video. So, let's wrap this one up. It's starting to thunder bang out here anyway, so we're going to have to be wrapping this one up shortly. The air show is also going on over at Pensacola Beach, and I could hear some of the planes flying around too, so I don't know how much this thing will pick it up. It's not the ones that go to the local airport. It's actually the ones that go to the Navy airport. It's on the other side of town. But they don't sound like these little prop jobbers anyway. So, that's it for today. Likey, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to pluck that dingle bell so you get updates every time I upload a video. Check out duckshit.net for all of my different social media links. And we'll be back, hopefully, this week with another video. Watch for it. And I got some tech session videos that I need to upload over on the other YouTube channel too. So check out VV the Duck VV. I haven't been over there in, I don't know, several months since I last uploaded a tech session video. That channel's probably been destroyed by the algorithm. I haven't even paid much mind to it. But I need to get on there and fix that. So, wish me well. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.